Welcome back to Guild Wars 2. This video of mine is going to be a little bit different than usual because I've actually came up with like usually in my previous videos I've said that I'm not going to really be doing any builds or anything like that because I'm pretty sure at some point I said that I kind of throw everything together a lot like a chef does, and it's kind of like a pizza when I build when I build a class, where I'll just grab a bunch of things, throw it in, think, ooh, this is tasty, and that's pizza terms, but for, I guess, class terms, ooh, this works, and then in the end, not, ooh, this works, but ooh, this is nice, this is fun, and then somehow, right in the end, it works. But finally, I feel like I've actually been playing Guild Wars 2 long enough that I've actually figured out how to make a build. Probably not a decent build, probably not even a good one, and especially this one especially isn't, because I've got three builds to show you today. The first one is a complete meme build, and excuse my language, but quite frankly, it's retarded, and I mean this in the kind of nicest, funnest of ways. I'll explain why. I call this build here the Speed Necromancer, and you'll see why. So, I'm playing my Necromancer here, Reaper, as you can tell, because of that little bit there. That indicates I'm playing the Elite Specialization Reaper. And this build is focused on going as fast as possible. I'll show you what I mean. So, first off, the first thing I have selected is Blood Magic. According to the wiki, this is mostly focused on healing and daggers, which is exactly what I like. So, the traits I'm going for is, well, these ones right here, you have to pick them in Guild Wars 2. Like, these traits will be selected for you no matter what. They're just like core traits, and you can't unselect them. These three, however, you can't select. I've ignored the one that enhances the Signet of Vampirism, and also this one Ritual of Life, which summons a Well of Blood. Basically, it summons this thing, a Well of Blood. So it's a field you put down, and it pulses. As it pulses, it heals people. So this is actually really good if you just in general are helping a bunch of your low-level friends out, because you walk over to and revive them, you basically dump a healing pool on them for free, making it that you heal them much faster because it is healing them on the ground while you're getting them up. It is awesome. But instead of that, I've gone here for Quickening Thirst, which increases your movement speed if you're above the health threshold. And I've already got a Signet on that increases my movement speed, and also it makes daggers attack faster. You see why that's important later. Then, Siphon Health whenever you hit a foe, minions also Siphon Health and transfer it to you. So you're thinking, yeah, maybe you want a few minions out. No, not for this build, you don't. And then also, you and nearby allies Siphon Health while with attacks. This effect increases while in Shroud, so Reaper Shroud is going to give me increased health as well. And then the last one, basically, exiting Shroud, this one makes that allies' conditions are basically put onto you. So let's say they got a bunch of bleeding and stuff on them. When you exit your Shroud or Reaper Shroud, it puts them on you. I didn't pick this because this build is going solo, so why bother having a trait that you're never going to use if you're fighting most things alone? Then, Shroud 4 skill heals allies. Yes, this is nice, especially with Reaper Shroud, but again, we're going in alone, so, I've selected that they will have reduced charge time, even though I'm not really... Oh, I guess I actually am using one well. Now, for weapons, of course, I've chosen double da... Oh, wait, I forgot for the other trait line. So, then for the other one, I've chosen Spite. So, Shroud 1 skill grants Might, which you can spam really quickly since it's Reaper's Shroud. Focus and Axe skills were charged quite faster, which is good because I'm using an Axe as the other weapon besides daggers. Right here. In fact, I'm using 3 daggers. Yes, I know it sounds ridiculous and you can't even hold that many, but stick with me. On one set of weapons, I got axe and dagger. On the other set of weapons, I got dagger. And yeah, you soon see why. Then Death's Embrace, you deal more damage when down, which is excellent because this meme build may just make you run into the enemy and die horribly. Basically, when you are attacking a... wait, let me see what that says. Actually, I know I really should have researched this more, but I basically just thrown this together on a whim. Ah, okay, so while the foe is below your health threshold, then you inflict... If they're below the health threshold, you inflict a chill on them, which also damages them. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, grant might to you and your allies. That's wait. Might grants more power and less condition damage. Gain might when entering shroud. Okay, so apparently this one's actually really good as well because I was talking about before how Reaper Shroud is excellent. So you can actually pick either of these two for this build. It doesn't matter. And then also you deal more inflicting fear on foes that applies vulnerability. The only way you can actually inflict fear with this build and the skills I've chosen here is when you go down, so that's not really that useful. And then the last thing I've chosen is Signets of Suffering, which increases like the power of your signets. So Signet of Spite gives you more power, Signet of the Locust is more healing power, and I'm maybe a little more move speed. And then for the last specialization here, I picked Reaper and picked Relentless Pursuit, so that you have an easier time getting to your enemies and you're not slowed by any slowing conditions, such as there where it says freeze, crippled, or immobilize. Then this one you have to pick. Then I've also picked striking a foe with vulnerability increases your... Wait, I shouldn't pick that. I forgot because oh wait, never mind. Axe does apply vulnerability, but I still think I'm gonna strike. There's one of the striking foes within the range threshold deals increased damage. Also heals a portion of damage you dealt. So basically, even more healing is what I'm picking here. And then for the last one, I'm actually going to take off Deathly Chill, which is when you chill enemies, you inflict bleeding on them, which is really awesome. But I'm going to pick Reaper's Onslaught, which makes Shroud skills quicker. Again, you'll see why very soon. For healing skills, I've gone with your Soul is Mine, so basically it is a shout, and when you press the button, you will deal damage to enemies while sucking the life force out of them. It's basically an area effect heal that goes around you. Then for the next thing, I have Signet of the Locust, which allows you to run faster, and when you use it, you steal health off the enemy. Now, next one, a Well of Power I've chosen, because it basically does the same as the healing well, except when this pulses, you get stability, you get might, and you get protection. It also steals life off the enemies and deals damage, so all in all, awesome. And then Signet of Spite, because you can use this to inflict all those conditions on the enemy at once, and if you don't use it, then it increases your power. And then lastly, Shields of the Bold, my ultimate skill that only Reapers can use, if like you're only choosing the Reaper specialization. Basically, this is a shout, and it deals lots of damage to enemies, stuns them, and also chills them, and gives you stability. So, hold on a second. Screen may turn black for a minute, because I actually use a controller, basically, to move my character, and I forgot to turn on the program that actually enables it. So, sorry about that. Right, so, as you can see here, my character is right now ridiculously fast. Like, he's kind of like a little speedboat. But I'm still going to get on my raptor because it's just so much faster. Now, I'm going to go over to an area where I just know there'll be plenty of enemies that spawn. In fact, right up here, going over and defeating this challenge, which is actually good for me because it'll give me a bunch of hero points, which will help me unlock Scourge, which is the elite specialization that I haven't even dabbled in at all. Reaper was the elite specialization from Heart of Thorns. Scourge is the elite specialization from the Path of Fire expansion, and I have both, and I haven't done a single thing with Scourge. I've only, well, learned how to play Reaper quite well, at least in my opinion. Right, so here we are, some of the perfect enemies to face. Okay, maybe not actually them, maybe not the Sand Sharks, but over here, I'll probably get into a fight with that Hydra, and of course, I'll unbottle this djinn. So, open it. Here we go. Oh wait, that's the wrong one, that's the axe. So yeah, as you can see, you're able to basically run rings around this enemy, and since all your dagger skills are so fast, just like a little speedboat. Then you activate Reaper's Shroud, and you just spin to win. In my opinion, one of the best ways to play this build is just go nuts. Figure out, of course, what all the class abilities do, like that one there with a stun, and my main attack in Reaper's Shroud is just a chop, and then you can also apply some kind of area effect field. But figure out what your abilities do first, and then play Eurobeat. Like, listen to Eurobeat, while just going ham on all the enemies, going nuts, and just dodging out of the way. I'll basically include the, I'll shut up for a moment right now, and in editing, I'll play some of it so you can know what it sounds like. Alright, djinn defeated. Now is probably a good enough time for you to like know what the Eurobeat sounds like. So what I'm actually going to do now is I'm going to run over and raptor my way back to... That sounds weird, but yeah, I'm going to use my raptor mount to run back over to a safe area, and there's actually a closer one over here. It never, pretty much never gets attacked, because I want to show you what all the abilities actually do, because I just said read up on the abilities and figure out what you do. But if you want to replicate my build, I might as well tell you what each of the different abilities there actually did, because you just saw me spam a bunch of stuff and a bunch of different flashy explosions, and you probably just be like, what'd he do? So I'll explain what all this stuff does now. Okay, so starting off with Dagger 1. So this, you can basically do it again and again and again. It has no cooldown, which is why it's usually bound to auto attack. These arrows going around in a square, if that's around something, it means you will auto attack with it. And it actually says right there, a little higher up, Control plus mouse 2, disable auto attack. And if you move over something else, Control plus mouse 2, enable auto attack, which means you can actually enable auto attack on some other skills, but I'm not really sure why you would want to do that. Maybe you would want to do it in Reaper Shroud, like if I enter Reaper Shroud again. Oh, wait, that's actually already on auto attack. Okay, so never mind, because basically all the other skills usually will have a cooldown. Okay, anyway, moving on, explaining all the stuff. So basically how this attack works is that your first attack, let me move out of the way of that flag, it's annoying. Your first attack will slash your foe twice, and you'll do damage to them. Then the next attack will drain life force from them, and then your last attack will drain life force. You're slowly gaining health each time you are stabbing them, and because you have the dagger trait that I picked out for this build, you're just stabbing them like a maniac. You're basically like, it's like your character's high on some kind of drug that just makes them act super hyper. I don't know. They drank 12 cups of coffee today, and they're just like, I'm gonna stab the enemy. Oh, good. Anyway, moving on. Next attack is Life Siphon. So this is actually ranged. The range is 600, so I'd say about, hold on, let me just disable the action camera. Wait, that's not the right button. There we are. So yeah, it's about there, that far away. That's about where you can drain them from what I've seen. Then the next one is Dark Pact. Immobilize your foe and bleed yourself. So you would deal 776 damage, and you immobilize them for 3 seconds, which is great for getting rid of break bars, and you also bleed yourself for about 10 seconds. But the thing is, even though you do self-damage, it doesn't really matter, because necromancer can heal themselves already. Like, as you are dealing damage to yourself from bleeding because you just stabbed yourself in the hand, and that's how Dark Pact works, you are probably at the same time just stabbing your foe over and over with this attack, which gives you life force. So you probably gain back the life quicker than you can even lose it. Then, because I'm using a dagger in the other hand, this one allows you to blind multiple foes, so it will shoot out a swarm of insects and it'll basically bounce off them like a pinball, while inflicting blind, which is a skill that basically also reduces enemies' break bars. If you know what enemies' break bars is, it's basically a blue bar up here, and if you reduce it all the way to 0, the enemy becomes stunned for a little while. It's used by enemies that are a little tougher, like usually veteran and above, because weaker enemies that don't have break bars, you'll be able to see in like my next few builds why they can just be wrecked by the stuff I'm about to show you. So, then you have the last one, which is Enfeebling Blood, which inflicts bleeding on the enemy this time. Also gives them weakness, so they deal less damage to you. It can do it up to 5 targets, deals 323 damage, and it's an area effect. So that's why you saw me in the middle of the fight do that. That was actually the dagger ability, making a poison cloud come down from the sky. If you want to see what the other ones look like, that's the poison cloud of like insects from the number 4 skill. This is stabbing yourself, so I've just stabbed myself for no reason, like a complete edgelord, and I'm now bleeding. But I don't care since I'm a necromancer, and this will just not even bleed me that much. This is the drain life. There's normally red blobs coming from the enemy into you, which indicates you're draining life properly. If that happens and there's no red blobs, that means you have not targeted the enemy and you are draining life improperly, just like also an edgelord. You basically try and drain life and don't do it right. Oh, if you don't know what edgelord means, it's basically a kind of comedic term for someone who is super, super edgy, and edgy basically means they try way too hard to be all cool and dark and brooding. Usually, like, a trope of that is someone with, like, dark clothes, red shirt, katana, saying stuff like, "Oh, the world never respects me, so I'm gonna strike out them." That kind of stuff. Shadow the Hedgehog from Sonic the Hedgehog games. He's a perfect edgelord. Yeah. Your soul is mine. You didn't really see me use that too much because, well, there, it's pretty hard to see. Enemies will get hit with like a kind of freezing effect when you use this though, so if that appears, you'll know you're hitting them. This activating it is when you activate it, it will make that symbol above your head appear. Also, you will run slower after you activate it because this is actually a speed boost that lets you run faster, but when you're in the middle of combat, you don't really care. This is basically for getting to the fight faster, and also if you need to run away, you wait for this to recharge and then just bolt for it while screaming. So this will also do the red dots coming towards you like this ability does. Then the next one, Well of Blood, this is what it looks like, and I actually did explain what this does. So you basically stand in this, and it gives you might and protection. And I really need to find an enemy to show you exactly why I love the Signet of Spite. So we'll go to this poor little sand eel over here, and activate the Signet of Spite on him. And then before you know it, boom, he's got all that. So he's inflicted with torment, so that damages him over time. He's got weakness, so he deals less damage. He's got vulnerability, so you do more damage. He's got poison. He's crippled, so he walks slower. As well as that, he also, I'm pretty sure... What was that other one? I can just stab... Oh, good. The NPCs are helping, so I'll surely live here. I don't even have to do anything. My character just auto-stab it to death. Yeah, so is there anything I missed here? Oh, blinded. So next attack misses. So he's first, like jump and kind of bite at me since he's the sand eel would have missed. Oh, and then of course there's the final ability, which is really good at removing break bars. I won't use it on the prairie dog because that will die in one hit anyway. But I just wanted to show you what this ability, Shield to the Bone can do against regular enemies. So you see this sand shark here, this veteran sand shark. It's super deadly. It now wants to kill me. I'm just waiting till it does one of its abilities so I can know how to dodge it. Okay, maybe it's not doing that. Anyway, I'll activate the ability. Immediately frozen and can't do anything. In fact, I actually interrupted him. He was trying to dive underground and come back out of the ground and try to eat me. But what I done there basically was, apparently that ability is so good. Not only is this in a desert, but while he was under the sand, I yelled so loudly that I froze him underground, which is just plain old bonkers. And I'm actually glad I went and attacked those enemies, because now I can show you the abilities from Reaper Shroud, and before it runs out, because Reaper Shroud will run out. It basically uses up this thing you have right here, your life force, and once that runs out, Reaper Shroud will run out. So I'll just move over all the abilities quickly so you can see what their icons look like and explain what they're called, and then after that I can explain what they actually do. So the first one is Life Rend. It's basically a 3-chain... Oh, wait. So that's Life Rend. That there. That's Dark Pursuit. That there's Infusing Terror. That's Soul Spiral. And that's Executioner's Scythe. So I'll explain what all the abilities do. The first one is a lot like the attacks for the daggers, where it will you continuously slash the enemy. Just over and over, giving yourself a boon. I'm pretty sure that was mine. I didn't really see too quickly. And yes, I know, I use this skill constantly, but I don't fully read it. That's just me. The next one sends you kind of rocketing forward, like basically up to here. And it's great for closing the distance between your enemy. And also you spin your spiral, like your Reaper's Scythe, really fast in a circle, dealing damage to the enemy. The next one is dealing damage to an enemy, and you apply, I think, some kind of condition to them, and then afterwards you can basically detonate this little, like, I think, a little orb above them to do an area effect damage, and I'm pretty sure it gives you a few other bonuses. Number 4, I just call that Spin to Win, or as a certain YouTuber called it, FUM a helicopter, because basically you spin around a giant circle, dealing all enemies dealing all enemies to damage around you. No, dealing damage to all enemies around you. Yeah, it's great. And then the fifth one, you get your scythe, bring it really high up in the air, slam it down the enemy, and it's a lot like Shield to the Bone, where you deal damage to enemies by freezing them, and it also is great for moving break bars. Now, slot 2, and I'm really glad that I chose some daggers because I don't have to explain these two. I already have. They're the exact same two abilities, only with axe. So, axe 1, Rending Claws. It does the same thing each time. It can slash the enemy twice. looks like that, and you can just spam it to do it over and again and again and again and again. In fact, it will auto attack, and it just keeps on dealing vulnerability to your enemy. Then once you've dealt enough vulnerability, you use this one, Ghastly Claws, which actually siphons life force off them and does a stupid amount of damage. In fact, it does 8 attacks at once. You might be thinking, how the heck can you do that? Watch the ability. Yeah, you basically just put the axe out in front of yourself and spin it like a maniac. I love that ability so much. It's so satisfying to use. And it makes this great, like, chop, 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 chop noise when you hit them. Then the third ability, Unholy Feast. It cripples the enemies and basically does an area effect around you in, like, a big circle. It's also great because of this build, as I said, you're going really, really fast, and I call it necromancer. So not only are you applying with this, like, a cripple to the enemy so they move slower, but you're going really fast, along with the signal of the locust, which, yes, still does work even when you're in combat. It's freaking ridiculous. And you just outrun them like a little zippy tornado. The best thing is when you're playing in Azura like I am, because, well, they're tiny, and the tinier your character is, the faster their run animation is. In fact, let me just find it. This is ridiculous. Should be in novelties. Here we are. The Endless Miniature Tonic. Let me just equip it. So, you thought the run speed was fast before. Check it out now. I haven't seen this too long. He's jittering like a maniac. Oh, you have to wonder how many cups of coffee this guy drank. Just, oh, gotta kill it. That's what basically I'd imagine him sounding like. Yeah, so the tinier you are, the faster your run speed is. Sadly, though, you can't mount when you're like this. There is, however, a way that you can actually mount. I haven't figured it out. I'll probably do research on that in the future. But there is a way you can shrink yourself and then mount, which is hilarious, because then your mount is tinier and it just runs faster. The thing is, this is actually like one of the biggest sizes you can get for Azura. So you can just imagine what it's like if you made a pipsqueak and then drank that potion. You're just like Sparkfly size, which is like one of the little ambient things that runs around. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for Speedchromancer. But that's not the end of the video, because I'm putting a cut in here because I'm switching characters. Why am I putting a cut in? Load screens, they take that damn long. Trust me, this game takes ages. I have quite a beefy computer and it still takes long. And I have to log out of this character and then log into the new one and wait for like 2 loading screens. So I'll see you then. Alright, here we are, back again on my chart engineer. Now, this loadout and build, I basically call the no bullets engineer, and you see why. Okay, so when you play an engineer, you get the option for your main weapon to either be a pistol you can use, a rifle you can use, a shield, which kind of comes with pistol, because that is actually pretty much your only one-handed weapon, aside from a sword with Hollowsmith, but I don't have Hollowsmith unlocked. I also don't have what do you call it? Not Reaper, that was Necromancer. Scrapper, yeah, that's it. I don't have Scrapper unlocked, because even though that includes a hammer, that would be great, I don't have all the full abilities worked out. And also, I pretty much wanted to make a build that you can make with the base game. So you don't need any other expansion whatsoever to make this build. This build pretty much focuses on using no projectiles whatsoever. Why would you want this? Well, there is some bandit executioners around that you can hunt, and also around this area, around Malkor's Leap, there are a bunch of earth elementals, and these earth elementals will make a protective shield and reflect the bullets back at you. So here's one right now. I'm just gonna shoot it at a bunch, and you see what I mean. It's right now not doing it, but trust me, it will soon. Just need to wait for it to actually make its shield drop. Okay, come on, any moment now. Wow, that's a lot of enemies actually attacking me. Ah, here we are. So, it might have been kind of hard to see, but one of the Earth Elementals actually did put a shield up just then. And it basically, the shield is pretty self-explanatory. It will reflect all your bullets against you. Now, one of the main downsides about playing Engineer is that nearly every single one of your attacks is bullets, unless you play Hollowsmith, of course, because then you have sword. But then still, what do you use in your offhand? Do you either use a shield, which can be thrown as a projectile, which is basically the same as a bullet, or do you use a pistol, which, Oh, wait. I just realized pistol offhand is actually great because they're not bullets. Okay, so actually either one of them. Actually, pistol is probably the better idea if you want to go with this no bullet loadout and you have Hollow Smith unlocked. But enough about Hollow Smith because I don't have Hollow Smith unlocked, and I'm basically trying to explain how this loadout works for you with the base game. And Hollow Smith is not base game. It's what do you call it? It's pacify only. So I'm just going back to this area here, Parker's Waypoint, to get into a safe area where nothing can kill me so I can explain what the build is actually about. So, rifle skill, I may as well explain what all these different attacks do, because some of them actually are good for enemies that would reflect ability attacks against you. This one isn't. Hip shot, you can fire over and over again, basically as I was doing, going bang, 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 bang with the rifle. That will be reflected against you. Net shot, it's a shot, so it can be reflected against you. This, however, blunderbuss, deals damage. Oh yeah, by the way, if the net hits someone, it immobilizes them, and this is pretty average. It just deals damage. It's a rifle shot. It's completely bland. This, however, blunderbuss, it is good for enemies that reflect abilities against you, because if I just use it right here, as you can see, it's kind of like an area effect out in front of you, and it weirdly enough doesn't actually count as a projectile, even though you're firing millions of little pellets. I don't understand why. This attack, overcharged shot, it is actually basically you fire a blast, a really strong blast. It sends you rocketing backwards, and it also removes movement impairing effects. But what can actually happen if the enemy reflects this against you and you don't have stability? Basically, stability is my previous build I just shown you. The speed necromancer can't apply that to you. Stability, it appears here, right here, and it looks like a Roman pillar. It basically makes you stable, which makes it you can't have effects knocking you down. Like an Etten could smash you with a club, an overhead swing that would normally send you right down to the floor, and it wouldn't work. Thing is with this, if you don't have stability, it will really knock you back like this, but then if the enemy reflects your bullet, it will reflect back into you, dealing its effects, so you can sometimes knock yourself back twice. I wanted to use this on an elemental near a cliff, and almost push myself off the cliff with the actual ability, and then the bullet came back, hit me in the face, and I flew off and died. Oh, don't worry about this NPC, they're always just asking if you can kill drakes, they're here all the time, just ignore them. Then the last ability here, jump shot, it applies vulnerability twice. It applies vulnerability when you rocket off the ground, because you explode, and then you kind of land again, and those both will actually bypass the enemy's shield. Now, for actually explaining what the build is all about and what the things do. So what I've chosen here is inventions, firearms, and alchemy. First off, the first thing I've picked is that heal skills are recharged when you're struck below the health threshold. Because I'm going to be using a flamethrower, which is mostly a close-up weapon, and going to be using an a mortar kit, totally wrong, which are both engineer kits, by the way, and you'll see how soon. I'm going to be in close combat a lot, which means my health is going to be reduced, and I'll be wanting to chug this as much as possible, because this provides a stupid amount of healing, Elixir H, which is my favorite heal skill for engineer. It provides 5,000 exactly, and you also gain regen for 4.5 seconds, so you're regenerating health after you drink this. I prefer this more than the turret skill, because, well... Oh yeah, this one's also really good. It just, if the timer, basically it puts a timer on you, and if you suffer lethal damage when the timer is up, it heals you even more. It's kind of, in a way, I guess, better than the health elixir, but I guess I'm just nostalgic about it. I guess it does also heal you a little less here, with only 434 health, and if you aren't struck below the your health threshold and you're about to die, and you're not in too much of a dangerous situation, this will actually give you more healing. And then the health turret is the one nearly everyone uses, but it's stationary, and you have to detonate it to move on, so that's why I don't really use it. Anyway, next one is you grant protection to nearby allies when you use a healing skill. Not even really needed for this build, but I mean, if you're drinking Elixir H constantly and it's recharging quicker than a turret and you're constantly giving allies protection, I guess that's nice. Not choosing either of these two, because blast combo finishes I'm not really good at even doing, and turrets. You don't want turrets for this build because you'd be mostly using the flamethrower, because that's probably one of the only non-projectile turrets, and the other two will just be reflecting back at the enemies, and this is all about bypassing projectiles, this build. Mecha legs, I've chosen that because that's actually really good for this build, because it makes it that your immobilize and cripple effects will last shorter when the enemies apply them to you, which is great, because before when I was versing those elementals, they were actually like making the ground shake and rumble. Then this one, healing power, your healing power is increased while you have regeneration, which this thing actually does, which is great, which means as the regeneration applies itself to me, I will gain more healing from the regeneration. And then the last 3, you can either choose bunker down. Well, basically, you can either choose bunker down, which I'm not even sure this one actually works. Yes, I know I should really read more about engineer, but I haven't really used it too much. Then, when you grant protection to an ally, cleanse conditions from them. That's all kind of nice, but I've chosen the one which is a percentage of healing you apply to yourself is shared with nearby allies. This is basically all. These 2 are basically about helping allies, and I guess this one is actually for granting yourself more protection, which actually sounds better now that I think about it, because this build was never meant to be about helping allies. It's kind of another solo build. So, next, moving over to firearms, I've chosen, well, sharpshooter is one you have to choose. Critical hits have a chance to include bleeding damage, which is great with a flamethrower, and you see why. The next thing I've chosen is you gain increased critical chance against foes within range threshold. This is basically an engineer close combat build, so that's always going to be within the range threshold, so excellent choice. The other one is gain might when you inflict bleeding on a foe, which can actually be quite good because oddly enough the flamethrower can inflict bleeding. Don't ask me how. Chemical rounds, your pistol skills gain increased condition damage, duration, and I think also you gain condition damage. Not choosing that at all because pistols are a projectile weapon. Unless, of course, you're choosing this and choosing as pistol as your secondary and going sword, then I guess it's kind of a good trait to choose, but not really since you're not using all the pistol skills you can really use. Then what I've chosen here is thermal vision. Oh yeah, by the way, this one is you have increased chance to gain a critical strike against bleeding foes, which is applied by the flamethrower again. I don't know why. This one increases condition damage, gives increased condition damage to nearby allies. Again, solo build, so not choosing that. Thermal vision, increase your outgoing condition damage when you inflict burning. Using flamethrower, you can see why I've chosen that. Burning. And then no scoop, critical hits within the range threshold have a chance to get fury against your ferocity. So basically your critical chance is increased again, because that's what one of the 2 does. The last thing I picked, and bleeding you inflict gains increased duration. I didn't really know this one was really in there, but that's also great, because as I said, flamethrower, bleeding, and I guess a few other skills can randomly just give bleeding. Because this one also gives a lot of bleeding, so that's good as well. And then I've chosen Juggernaut, which is gain might and stability while wielding the flamethrower. So while wielding the flamethrower, you cannot be knocked down when you first equip it, which is awesome. And also you gain heaps of might, including increased condition damage, so it's really good for flamethrower since I'm using it. The others are really good as well. Deal increased damage for each condition on your foe, which is great because flamethrower and mortar will apply heaps and heaps of conditions. And then okay, I changed my mind. That one actually doesn't sound that good. Screw Juggernaut. I'm going with this build for burning last longer, and your critical hits inflict burning, so they'll just burn and burn and burn, and you can get the burn up to really high stacks. Now, I'll just quickly go over the tool belt kit, the tool belt things and what they do here. And these abilities are all based on basically what weapons and like kits you've chosen here. So this one, because I've chosen Elixir H, these can't be changed out, by the way. These are just given to you by the things you choose here. What this allows you to do is basically, you throw a mini healing elixir, which applies regeneration, heals people that you hit a little bit, and it also, you can also throw it after you've thrown this, so they share different cooldowns, which is awesome. Incendiary ammo. Your next 3 attacks will inflict burning. So one thing I love to do is I activate this while using the flamethrower, and I just burn them even more because the flamethrower makes this basically you apply 3 stacks of burning to enemies really, really quickly. I love that ability. This one is also awesome. So what you can do with this one is basically it's a lesser version of Elixir B, where if you chuck it down, you will receive buffs, and this it's a random assortment of buffs. You may get stability, fury, which increases your critical chance, might increases damage, retaliation means enemies that hit you will reflect the damage back to their source, which is awesome, and then also swiftness, so you get a random one of those. Elixir U is you get 3 seconds of super speed, so as you can see you throw it on yourself and you suddenly run much faster, and that is actually what Elixir U would do normally, so I might as well explain it. So all the elixirs, not all, but this one anyway, it breaks stun. So if you're ever stunned and your mecha legs aren't working fast enough to break the stun, just drink this and you will gain quickness, which means your skills and actions are faster. So not only you will run faster, Oh wait, actually, I just realized I wasn't actually running faster. Oh wait, never mind. But at least your actions are quicker. So maybe he actually is running faster. I'm not really sure. You can look that up yourself. But basically, when you use abilities, they will fire off much, much quicker. When this becomes active again, I'll just show you. And then, of course, you have Elixir B, which is just your buff elixir. It always will give you swiftness. It always will give you might, and it will always give you fury as well. And also retaliation. There's always a guarantee that it gets you. So basically, this is my run faster ability that I like to use to heat with engineer. You just drink it, and then it will recharge fairly quickly, and you can just drink it again, and you keep on doing it like some kind of drug addict. Yeah, so this is what I meant by the abilities working faster. If you just do Vigor, yeah, as you can see, there's like a little bit of a shimmer effect, and even that one's way faster, and this one's way fast. Like, that's way fast as well. And also, as you can see, that's what I was talking about before. I had stability there, so I didn't actually get knocked back by my own rifle skill, which is awesome. Now, moving on, explaining the abilities, what Flamethrower does. So, Flame Jet, really simple. Just a jet of flame. You can just keep using it again and again and again. In fact, it's an auto attack, and it's not a projectile, so the enemies can't reflect it. This, however, is a napalm ball. So you basically fire it, hits the floor, and it explodes, dealing napalm damage. Not napalm, but flaming damage. Thing is, it is a projectile, so if you shoot at the enemy, like let's say this NPC right here was the enemy. If I shoot right at him and he's an earth elemental, he probably will reflect it. So what you should do is, let's just say this was this. In fact, never mind. I can just wait for the flamethrower ability to recharge. So what you should do for earth elementals and stuff you don't want them to reflect is put it near them. Fire it near them, because if the area effect hits them, it doesn't matter. It's just about doing the same amount of damage as if you actually hit them. So always aim a little bit further away from them. Air Blast, it inflicts burning on your enemies with hot air, and it also pushes them back. Then Smoke Vent basically blinds nearby foes, so they can't. The first attack on them will miss, and it also will break their break bar a little, as I explained with the Speed Necromancer build. Then the last ability for Flamethrower is Napalm. It's a wall of fire, which also allows you to do combos with it. Oh wait, no, that's not what I meant to do. So I'll just really quickly equip the rifle again. Now let's say the Flamethrower field was right here, and I was shooting through it. Any kind of projectile you shoot through it will basically catch fire, and that's what a combo field is. So that's how they work. You know, other combo fields, like I'm pretty sure water from elementalists will provide healing and stuff like that. So that's those two elixirs already explained. Now moving on is the elite mortar kit. This is a really weird elite skill, because you basically use it and its timer is unlimited. You can hold it for as long as you want, because it's actually a weapon you can hold. As you can see here, my char is actually holding the mortar. So the abilities you have with this is just an average mortar. If you fire it, it hits the ground rather fast, and it's actually a really good idea to just basically do this. You just continuously spam it really close to yourself and strafe side to side, and that is actually the main tactic you'll be using for this build, because if you just basically use like a close combat weapon, even though it's a mortar, and just keep shooting it like this, the area effect will damage enemies, but they won't be able to reflect it back on you, because you're shooting it at the ground faster than they can reflect it back. Especially the case for the second ability. It's a giant poison cloud, and if you fire the mortar then into the poison cloud, you actually make more poison. It's the same with the fourth ability. It's a giant freezing circle, and you actually remove conditions from allies if you fire, and yourself if you fire it in there. And the third one, that's actually the freezing circle, which will chill enemies. I actually should really read my abilities more. So what does this one actually do? Okay, a phosphorus. So basically a sulfur shell. I think that's what phosphorus stands for anyway. And then the last one is a healing one, so you can actually heal yourself again with this mortar ability, and then you grant people regeneration if you launch like a mortar shot in there, and detonate the mortar shot in there. So that's pretty much explained how the mortar works. Oh yeah, and then the last one, of course, because we picked mortar, the last one is orbital strike. So you basically call down some kind of space satellite or something. I don't even know where it comes from. Like a lightning strike just comes from the sky and hits the floor. Again, that's oddly enough not a projectile, so the enemies can't actually reflect your orbital strike, which is just awesome. Now I just need to go over the last few tidbits here. Where was it again? Here it is, build. So then the last trait line I've chosen is alchemy. So this is all about elixirs. So when you are struck below the health threshold, so you receive 75% of your health damage, you will drink an elixir B and just buff yourself. Then I've also chosen one which is protection injection. So when you're disabled, you will gain protection, which basically means not only will your mecha legs make you disabled for like a short amount of time, but also you'll be gaining protection, so you'll be taking less damage when you are disabled. And this one, I didn't really choose it because, well, actually it is a really good choice. When you gain swiftness, you also gain vigor, and I forgot that you actually gain swiftness all the time from chucking an elixir B on yourself, and also drinking an elixir B, so this could actually be a really good choice for this build. Last one, health insurance, increases your healing effectiveness and gain increased healing to others while using a med kit. A med kit is another engineer's toolkit, which you can actually select. It's, I'm pretty sure, right in here. Okay, it's actually not. I remember now. It's actually an engineering kit that is a health option. So basically, you use it in all your healing, like all your attack skills that normally would be attack skills, all become healing skills. So you can start healing people. However, this is again a solo build, so while you'd be using the medkit on yourself, you couldn't be wielding your flamethrower and doing damage to the enemy, so that's why I'm not picking it and don't recommend it. Then, this one, you basically, you drink an elixir C, converting conditions into boons, and when there's a threshold of conditions on you, you will drink elixir C automatically. So if you suffer 3 conditions, you automatically drink elixir C, which is actually this one here. Basically, you convert all conditions into boons. So all the bad stuff the enemies apply to you, like crippled and stuff, you turn that into good things, like vigor and fury and stuff I was explaining before. Then, there's another one, which is elixir E. Drink an emergency elixir E when you are struck below the health threshold. I'm just trying to find out which one of these it actually is, because I haven't really used it too much. No, that's elixir S. Okay, so maybe the case is that elixir E is something you can only drink while actually selecting an ability, because I can't seem to find it here, and I have the entire engineer's trait line like unlocked, and there seems to be no elixir E. So what I've chosen instead is recover health every second when using an engineering kit, because a flamethrower is an engineering kit, and so is elite mortar, so you constantly heal when using a mortar and flamethrower. That's why I picked those two. Then, for the last one, your choices are elixirs grant you increased, they have reduced recharge and increased durations, and also grant might. So all the elixirs will grant might, and this one will grant extra might. Instead of 5, it will be 7. This could be an excellent choice, because if I drink it right here, you see that the cooldown is now a decent amount quicker, even though that doesn't seem that quick right now. Trust me, when you're in the middle of a heated battle, this is a real boon to you when the elixir is recharging this quick. But instead, what I've chosen here is Iron-Blooded, which is also an excellent trait. Basically, you gain decreased condition damage per boon you have on you. So let's say you drink this, you immediately gain 6% less damage dealt to you because you have 3 boons. Then you drink this, you have 4 boons. You stack them up both at the same time, you have 7. That's like, I'm just doing some quick maths here. Yes, I know I should really know this. Yes, sorry, 14% damage not dealt to you, which is awesome. I haven't chosen this because when you cleanse a condition out from an ally, convert it into a boon instead, which would be great, except this build is not really focused that much on actually cleansing conditions from allies. Yeah, so that's pretty much my no projectile engineer. Never really said it was that good, but at least it should be probably pretty fun to play. Now I've finished explaining all of that, I'll move on to my last build, which is BS Stunlock Warrior. So I'll be back when I get to it. And we're back in the Heart of the Mist, which is the PvP area, with the warrior I have. And this is, as I said, the BS Stunlock build. Okay, so sadly, wait, never mind. I just realized something. Yeah, there is a way actually to play this base game, but I prefer non-base. I prefer using a Heart of Thorns expansion only specialization Berserker, and you'll see why. So, this build focuses all about, this build is focused on as I said, stunning the enemy constantly. If you use it in PvP, other players may hate you for it, and it's actually kind of not that nice to do, which is why I recommend actually using this. I recommend mainly using this not in PvP. I mainly recommend using this in just PvE, like play versus environment or play versus content, PvC, I guess, the regular stuff in the game, all that kind of stuff, like world bosses and that kind of thing. Because they're AI and they can't get upset, and it's not that nice to be really mean to someone. Anyway, basically, the build I've gone for is defense, strength, and berserker. Defense is actually really self-explanatory because it's really self-explanatory because, well, defense is what it is. It should stand for defending yourself and gaining increased health and stuff. So, gain toughness while your health is above the health threshold. So if it's above the health threshold of 75%, then your toughness is increased. Your health might go down pretty fast in PvP though, so that it might not be useful for too long, but it's a trait you have to use. Then basically, every single one of these skills I'd say is awesome, and it actually fits the build, and I'll explain why. Dogged March. Reduce the duration of movement impeding conditions and gain regeneration when you're affected by one of these conditions. So, this is a lot like mecha legs for the engineer, except instead of you making your legs all cyborg like with the engineer, you just go, I don't give a shit, and start walking towards the enemy and basically walk through the pain, which I love. It's one of the reasons why I love being a warrior so much in the game. It's one of my favorite classes. So yeah, it's awesome for getting towards the enemy because you want to be right up in their face because you want to stun lock the ever-living shit out of them. So that's an awesome ability you can choose. And then, as well as that, you can also choose Call the Weak. Increase damage to weakened foes. Hitting a foe below the health threshold inflicts weakness. So basically, you get your foe below the health threshold of 50%. They can be at 49%, a tiny bit lower than half. You hit them, and then you apply weakness, which makes them hit you for less damage because they are weakened. On top of that, you deal increased damage to them because the other part of the trait kicks in, which is striking a foe below the, which is that it deals damage to weakened foes. So, awesome. Shield Master. Your shields now reflect projectiles. Remember how I was talking about with the engineer build that's all about avoiding projectile reflecting stuff? This lets you become the projectile deflector. With this skill, when you now use shield skill 5, this one, which lasts for like that long, by the way, anyone who shoots you, anyone who tries to shoot you, will have their stuff reflected back at you. I once used this in PvP against an enemy ranger, and activated their number 2 ability, which is basically like where they rapid fire their bow, like they would basically, I don't know, were giving themselves carpal tunnel syndrome with how fast they were firing the bow. They were basically like Legolas from Lord of the Rings, except instead of him, they were firing ludicrously fast. In fact, that's an excellent explanation. It's the machine gun skill, the ranger machine gun skill from Longbow, number 2. If you play a ranger, you'd probably use it all the time, and you know how awesome it is. Except when someone uses something like this against you. When I was using a shield stance, basically all the projectiles flew in, hit the shield, and reflected back in their face. One thing that was even more awesome that happened is at one point, enemy was standing right, let's say there's a huge cliff, a much bigger cliff. They're standing like right here. They use the Ranger 4 ability on me, which basically knocks the enemy back, just like that engineer skill I just showed you. And I used the reflect skill, and I pushed them off the edge, and they fell to their death based on their own stupidity. Well, I mean, they did fire the skill, and then I activated the shield skill really quickly, so I guess you can't really blame them, but it was still hilarious, and I felt bad for doing it. Yeah. So, absolutely every one of these skills is awesome. Then, for the next one, all of these skills are awesome, but we're choosing this one because it's increased, basically, knockdowns and dazes from the foe you apply on the foes with a mace last longer, which is exactly why I'm picking this. But the other skills are utterly awesome as well. Gain power based on your toughness. Since you're a warrior, even if you don't choose any other skills, you most likely have a heap of toughness anyway by default, because that's warrior in a nutshell, so you gain a lot more power. Endure no pain is basically you take no damage for 2.5 seconds. It also breaks your stun, and it also gives you vigor. And you will cast a lesser version of this when you're struck below 50% health, which means you have a brief period of invulnerability. So this is also really awesome. So yeah, any of these work, but we're just choosing mace this time. Then the last one is when you are disabled, you will cast lesser balanced stance, which breaks stun, gives you swiftness, gives you stability, which I talked about before. you are immune to critical hits when you're in the balance stance, and you periodically gain stability as well, which makes it that you can't be knocked back. And then, as well as that, well, actually, no, wait, that's it. That's everything about it. Yeah, but so, not only if you choose Dogged March will your stuns and everything be reduced, they'll be reduced after you straight up ignore the first stun when you were hit by it. And I'm pretty sure you can also just choose Balance Stance as a skill you have anyway, which just, yeah, it makes it totally awesome. Then, this one, Cleansing Ire, gain adrenaline when hit, remove a condition for every bar of adrenaline spent when you use the burst skills. This actually is really awesome as well. Wow, I never knew how much I liked the defensive tree. I'm just praising every single option. So, this normally is your burst skill. This is now changed into a berserk skill, but this will basically do the same thing. So what this here is saying is that you remove a condition for every bar of adrenaline spent. This is the warrior's own mechanic that not really any other class has. So, this is adrenaline. It builds up as you are damaged or you take damage. So the more the enemy whacks you in the head, the more it goes up because you get angry. The more you hit them in the face, the more you love it, and the more it goes up. Basically, Warriors are all about combat, which I love, which is why I love the class so much. Then, when you use your adrenaline skill, so this normally would be just a mace smack, a really, really hard mace smack, because it would deal damage to the enemy and stun them for a little while. When you use it, per adrenaline bar spent, you will remove a condition. So the attack, by the way, that mace skill, it gets better and better the more adrenaline you have. So if you only have one bar full, it's like it's its weakest form. Middle is kind of medium, and if you have all three full, it's at its strongest form, where it'll do like I think around 3 or 2.5 seconds of stun, and that's without this berserk ability either. So that is awesome. And also, if you have all 3 bars full, not only will your attack be at its best, but when you hit the enemy, you will remove 3 conditions, which again is awesome. Then, gain toughness and health while you break out of stun. This can also be awesome because if you choose Dogged March, that means your stuns are like a much shorter duration, so you will gain health when you break out of the stun. So, for this, I'm pretty sure I'm just going to leave it on Last Stand, which means basically even more stun resisting, and I'm going to leave it on Call of the Week, because, actually, no, I'm going to choose, yeah, Call of the Week, because this is already removing stuns. I don't need that much stun removal. Next one I've chosen is Strength, which is all about, I'm pretty sure it's, wait, no, that wasn't the one about Signet. So yeah, Strength is all about great swords, hammers, and just in general dealing damage. Hold on, I'm just going to move away from these people because they're just making all these really loud effects happening. I'm just going to sit over near the trebuchets where no one is using effects, so it's not so much. Man, there's still someone over there practicing. Are there any places here, around here, where people aren't? Okay, good. Around here, no one's practicing. I can finally get up and sing again. Yeah, so the first one is you damage foes at the end of the dodge roll, gain might for each foe struck by this attack. Reason why this ability is so awesome is because imagine you're in PvP, just completely surrounded by enemies, and you're like, oh my god, enemies, panic, dodge roll backwards. The enemy tries to follow you because they're a close combat class, like let's say a necromancer wielding daggers or a reaper with a greatsword in close combat. You will probably damage them with your dodge roll just because you're trying to dodge backwards and panicking for your life. It is the ultimate panic button. That's why I love the skill, and I love it how it's just there. You can't not choose it. Brave Strike. Your first strike when entering combat gains stability. Again, you know what stability is. Cannot be pulled back, launched, stunned, dazed, floated, feared, or taunted. Okay, so apparently you can still have like the chain effect on you, which is immobilized, but all the others don't affect you. I'm actually not going to be choosing this because this is another one that is basically stun lock removal skills. In my opinion, you really don't need so many of them. Or maybe you do if you're like me and they keep using against you. So I'm going to keep this on right now. The other one you can choose is using a heal skill grants might, which for this build we're not choosing because that would actually include using a heal skill, and I'm right now using a signet of regeneration, a healing signet which just constantly regenerates your health. Then, peak performance. You can, I'm pretty sure what this does is that when you, jump off some kind of ledge and hit the floor, you will basically do a shockwave damaging enemies. I'm not totally sure about this, but I'm pretty sure that that's what's happening because I'm pretty sure I've got this selected in my player versus environment build, and I keep on making these little shockwaves when I hit the ground. Also, Physical skills have do increase outgoing damage, and for a period of time you receive. Oh, that is the one where you take less damage from falling. I should have read that. And they also reduce recharge. Physical skills are skills like here, like the stomp. So I guess it would be kind of useful, but here I've been using mostly signets. If you had like a few more physical skills, like at least 2, I guess I actually have another one here. This one is also a physical skill, I guess. But that's why I'm not choosing that and just choosing Brave Stride because of how much I'm stun locked. Burst skills restore endurance on hit. This one is excellent as well. Endurance is basically your dodge bar, how often you can dodge. So if you successfully hit an enemy with this skill here, your dodge is refilled and you can dodge sooner. Moving on, Great Fortitude. Vitality is based on a percentage of your power. You gain vitality based on your power. So warriors, again, they naturally have a lot of power. Power is basically raw damage in this game. So the more raw damage you have, the more vitality you have. So if you have a bunch of gear that increases power... Oh wait, I can't show you the gear. I forgot I'm in PvP mode. But let's just go into the... where is it? Here. The PvP build. So right now, here I'm using Barbarian Amulet, which gives you 900 power, 900 precision, and 900 vitality. With this, your now 900 power is also converted into extra health, which is why I have a stupidly high, ludicrous amount of health here. So, but the thing is, by converted, I don't mean that it's not giving you more damage. It's giving you more damage as much as 900 power would be doing, but it's also giving you health at the same time. So you can see why I just absolutely love this skill. Forceful Greatsword. Double the bonuses while wielding a Greatsword and Spear. Greatsword and Spear skills are recharged. Don't choose this at all for this build. It's simple. You aren't using a Greatsword. That's like basically being skilled and, I don't know, fork stabbing when forks aren't even like a weapon in this game. And then also, Body Blow. Stuns, dazes, knockback, pulls and pushes, and launches inflict bleeding and weakness. Okay, I didn't realize how utterly perfect this is for this build, because this is all about every single one of these things, because it is the bullshit knockback build. However, for now, I'm just going to keep it on Great Fortitude because I love the health increase so much. Then, your last set of skills you can choose are Merciless Hammer. It's the exact same as Forceful Greatsword. Hammer is better, which is why I've chosen it, because I'm using Hammer in this build. Might makes right. Gain health and endurance whenever you apply Might to yourself. Kinda good, but I don't know how... I don't think that many of these skills actually just give you Might, so I'm not really using it. And then gain increased damage when using a burst skill, and this is used based on your adrenaline. So as I explained before, exact same mechanic as before. Burst skill... yada yada yada, adrenaline, yada yada, better when you have more. So yeah, it's also an awesome skill. But for this, I'm just including Hammer. Then, the alert specialization, Berserker. And I actually just need to show you how this works, because it is a world of difference. Okay, so let me just select off Berserker, and we won't even choose any of these traits whatsoever. We'll leave it open, just so we aren't using the Berserker abilities. And then, I'll go over and find myself a nice golem to just hit a few times. Not the champion one. Okay, actually, why not the champion one? So, as I am hitting the golem, not endurance, adrenaline is going up. And as you keep hitting the golem, it will keep going up. And then, when this, let's try and get the bar to full by hitting the golem enough. Yeah, that's full. You activate the elite skill kind of thing, and you deal more damage and hit the golem. That was with just your average run-of-the-mill warrior build, where you just do the skull crack and you kind of fling the weapon over and hit the enemy. Now, watch what happens when you choose Berserker. And I'm just going to have to quickly choose the, which one of these are they doing? That's the build I like for this. Of course, just choosing the, headbutt skill. So, now watch what happens when I fill this thing completely. Any moment now. Now, flame explodes around me, and all this is happening quite quickly, so let me just explain what's going on. So, not only when you activate your Berserk skill, does flame basically explode around you in an area effect, but also, when that happens, you will do this attack instead. So what Berserk does is you gain adrenaline and attack speed boost, and you get access to primal burst skills. So for 1 second, because I've chosen this trait, and I'll explain in a minute, if I feel no pain, so I'll take 100, like no damage for 1 second, which is awesome. And also, as well as that, you gain stability, which removes all those things I told you about before. Burning also happens because it will explode with like a flaming aura, like I just said. As well as that, you also break stun. So if you're stunned, when you activate Berserk mode, you break stun, which is great when you're doing something like, let's say, you're versing... let me just try and think. What can actually stun you really, really well? Let's say you're versing another warrior, and they use this ability here against you, bowlers. Basically, they basically do this. They throw two bowls with a chain in the middle, and it's meant to be like, it was an ancient weapon used by the Incas, I think. It will, like, basically, it's what it's meant to do is fly around towards someone, wrap itself around their arm and maybe their chest, like, kind of tie them up like rope. And as well as that, perhaps the ball will, like, fling around and whack them in the face, because you are meant to throw it as hard as you can because it is a weapon of war. So let's say the enemy uses this against you, and you're stuck for, like, 4 seconds. You can activate Berserk mode, come charging right at the enemy, and basically make the enemy go, oh shit, and then just start smashing them in the face. As well as that, you now have access to Skull Grinder, which hold on, I actually just need to go and switch back to a normal profession like arms. So yeah, Skull Crack. On level 1, like this, it's you stun the enemy for 1 second, then level 2, it's 2 seconds. Oh, they're all back to practicing. Hold on, let me just get back over to my quiet corner. It's kind of funny how I call it that. Yeah, so that's Skull Crack in a nutshell. But with Berserker, instead, it deals blindness to the enemy, which means their next attack will miss. It deals bleeding damage. It deals confusion, which means you hit them on the head so hard that they're dizzy. And what confusion basically does, you attack someone while you have confusion, and you'll do damage to yourself. So the enemy is, like, so confused and getting hit in the head so hard, they're like, what do I do? And they, like, smash themselves in the head as well. It's great. Then... so that's basically, one last thing about the Berserk mode that makes it utterly awesome. You're able to use it 3 times instead of just 1 time. In fact, that's one thing I think is kind of a downside with Berserker. It is just so good compared to regular warrior, and the fact that also you're able to move around a lot more with the Berserk skills. Like, let me just try and think of one. This is perfect. Even though I've got completely the wrong build for it, I just want to show you how good Berserker is with sword. So let me just really quickly equip my sword, and we'll go back up to the practice column. Because the mace skill is kind of a quick cast, you just whack the enemy over the head with it, it's all good and done. But the sword skill is a world of difference. Oh wait, I haven't unequipped Berserker yet. Oops. So back to arms. Now, I can't do it while in combat, of course. I've entered myself into combat now, so I just need to run away from the golem for a little while so the combat finishes. You kidding me? Okay, fine. I'll just kill the golem to end the combat. This is one thing that find frustrating in Guild Wars 2. Sometimes this will just happen where you're in combat with an enemy for ages and you don't know why, and you're obviously already out of combat and it's just not working. But at least since I'm in this mode, I can show you what the skill for sword is. So, sword is super awesome. You basically shoot flaming bolts at your enemy, and it basically for a little while turns you into a ranged attacker. So normally you wouldn't be able to use ranged abilities when you're in Berserk, like when you've got a normal sword, it's all close combat stuff, but you're actually able to shoot these off at enemies, and it's awesome. Once there was an enemy engineer running away from me while I was playing warrior in PvP, and I used this, and even though they done like I think some kind of jump move with a hammer to get away, they landed and the flaming bolts caught up to them, hit them in the butt, and they died. It was awesome. Yeah, so as I was saying, I'm just going to be going and equipping arms now. This is why it's a world of difference. So again, just need to charge up the skills. Instead of it letting you move around, it locks you in place. And if you stop move, like if you move, it doesn't really lock you in place. Like, you aren't rooted to the floor like some survival abilities actually let you do, but if you move around, it will cancel the ability, whereas in the berserk mode with sword, you're able to back up like this while still shooting your flaming bolts forwards. Yeah, so that is just generally the reason why I think Berserk is kind of too good of an elite specialization. It's kind of a no-brainer. You either choose that in PvP, or you're kind of just an idiot, which I don't like. I wish Base Warrior was more viable for people who don't have the Heart of Thorn specializations. Anyway, so now I'm just going to go over and explain what the traits actually do in Berserk mode. So this, of course, okay, apparently Berserk also gives you quickness, so your skills and actions are fast, and gives you super speed, so you also run faster. That's even more overpowered than I even thought. Wow. And it also is Primal Rage. That's basically what I explained before, where it replaces your elite skills with better versions, which are the Berserk versions. Then here, your the skills you can choose are Smash Brawler, increases Berserk mode duration, which by 5 whole seconds, letting you stay in Berserk mode for longer. Really awesome. Blaze, when you use a rage skill, inflict burning on nearby enemies. Wait, what? I really should know this, but what is actually a rage skill? Wait, I think I might know. Ah, okay. So, rage skills are berserker-only skills that you can use, and they let you do stuff like this one here is Sundering Leap. So, if I just use it, it's kind of a jump forward, and you kind of Hulk smash the floor and apply vulnerability on enemies. In my opinion, most of them are quite good. Like, this one here is another stun break, apparently. Wow, I should be using this one more. This one, Shattering Blow. You conjure a rock in front of yourself. You somehow just make a rock appear as if you were an elementalist, even though you're not. And then you smash the rock, and the rock shards fly out and deal damage, grants you stability, and flies bleeding. Like that. It's ridiculous. I don't know how your warrior is even able to do that. And then Wild Blow, I actually haven't really used this one too much. I'm pretty sure you just fly forward and hit enemies. Are we able to use it any second now? Yep, you can. That's all it is. You don't even fly forward. So that's what increasing that. So that's what Last Blaze does. When you inflict a rage skill, it deals 4 burning on enemies for 4 seconds. And then, of course, the last one, Savage Instinct. Activating Berserk mode breaks stuns and reduces incoming damage. So it's another stun break on top of the 2 stun breaks I already have. So no wonder I actually didn't choose Dogged March. I probably had this in the back of my mind and didn't really remember it. Another stun break, wow. Then this one, Burst of Aggression. This is actually the one that gives you super speed. And it's always chosen, so you can't not choose it. Then the last one is you gain a percentage of your precision, and it's given as a bonus to ferocity. This is doubled in Berserk mode. So, this basically, precision is your critical hit chance. So if we go into here, right now, because I'm playing PvP, my critical hit chance is almost like 50%. It means I have if it's 50%, you have a 50% chance of critically damaging an enemy and hitting them with a critical hit if you strike them. So this is almost there. I've actually kind of got almost this high in a certain kind of build I have in the Play vs. Environment game mode as well. And basically, it increases Berserk. When you enter Berserk mode, this is increased by a decent amount more if you have that trait there selected. So, yeah, that trait, in my opinion, is quite awesome. Next one, gain condition damage. Gain additional condition damage while wielding a torch, and torch skills gain reduced recharge. This is best when you use a torch, and this is the reason why. Let me just equip my torch. Where is it? Should be somewhere in here. Ah, here it is. So, when you equip the torch, you have 2 abilities. Blaze Breaker, which is where you basically slam it in front of you and make a huge fire wave. And then also this one, Flames of War, which is where you can make a flaming circle and it travels with you as you move. These are really great abilities, great for dealing damage, but the reason why I'm not using a torch and using a shield is because, in my opinion, for this stun-locking build, it needs to be right in the enemy's face. You need some defense. Yes, I know torch is all in your enemy's face as well, but you'd be getting hit a lot more, and you also couldn't reflect damage back at your enemies with the that one defense skill if you weren't using shields. So if you aren't using a shield, definitely don't pick this because this is only for shields. Yeah, so you can choose this, however, if you aren't choosing a torch, because it says it inflicts increased condition damage. So if you, for example, pick this one, burning is a condition damage. So if you just use a lot of these rage skills, you'll be inflicting condition damage. Then your berserk mode would also inflict condition damage, and then you could potentially inflict condition damage a few more ways. Like let's say, you had wait, no, that's not one that inflicts condition damage. Yeah, on my mark, which is basically shout at the enemy and apply vulnerability. So that would be another way of applying condition damage, which means you actually could pick Heal the Soul and it would be good even if you don't use a torch. However, the one I pick is Dead or Alive. Receiving flavor damage in Berserk mode ends Berserk and heals you. Incoming healing is increased. So basically, this lets healer classes in PvP situations and normal environment situations, player versus environment, heal me more, which is great because this healing signet sometimes doesn't heal me enough, even though it does a great job. And also, your Berserk mode is ended, but it heals you, so I really like that, and I don't really mind my Berserk mode being ended, because usually when enemies damage me that much, this activates, I need to run away anyway, in PvP anyway, not player versus environment. Berserk Fatal Frenzy. Berserk mode increases power, condition, and damage, but reduces toughness. Oh, okay, so apparently Berserk mode actually makes you a little bit weaker, but it isn't too much. The benefits you gain from all this, I think, is just too much. Then, Bloody Roar increases damage by a whopping 15% in Berserk mode. That's it, that's all it does, but this skill is awesome because it's 15%. Who wouldn't want that? It's so much damage. King of Flames, increased duration of burning you apply, gain a fire aura when you critically hit an enemy. So this is really great for a build I've got, the one I have, because you're almost, like nearly half the time, you're critical hitting an enemy. And then on top of that, you would then be gaining a fire aura, which, let's see what it says. Okay, a fire shield that burns foes and grants each time you are struck. So if an enemy was in close combat, like again, let's say there was an elementalist going really close to their flaming daggers or cold daggers trying to hit you, and they basically were in close combat, you'd be constantly burning them. So that's a really good skill. Then, Eternal Champion. Gain toughness while in Berserk mode. Gain stability and might when breaking stuns. So this again is really good if you were using this skill, because you'd use Savage Instinct to enter Berserk mode, then this would immediately give you might because you've just broken a stun that the enemy has got on you by doing this. Also the same if you're using this, which breaks a stun, and that, which makes a stun take less. But I've just chosen the one that gives you 15% increased damage. Then, of course, for the last ability... Oh, really shouldn't have done that. I didn't know these enemies actually all attack you at once, because I want to show this off in just kind of a more controlled environment. So, I'm just going to run away, or perhaps just kill these... Okay, good. That's their aggro range, so once you get out of that, you're fine. So, the last ability I've picked is Headbutt. It's pretty simple and self-explanatory. Basically, your character thrusts their head forward and smashes the enemy, like so. Then, as well... Oh, now I'm going to have to kill the golem. Never mind. I'll just let my character auto-attack kill them while in Berserk mode. So, as well as stunning the enemy for a decent duration, it also breaks your stun as well. So again, good for those traits. It also removes stability, but, well, it breaks your stun, so that doesn't really matter. It also deals increased 50% damage, so that's a whole heap more damage. But it also stuns you a little bit. Basically, another reason why I love Warrior, you're hitting the enemy so hard with your own head, even if you have your helmet on, you basically get knocked around a little, like as if you were, I guess, in a car crash. Well, that's kind of a mean thing to say, but it is kind of true. Right, now that I've finally explained most of those abilities, I'll explain what the actual abilities do from the weapons I have equipped, just so you know. So, equipping Shiverstone again. Mace Smash, you hit your foe, deal damage. You hit your foe again, so these two are just completely average hits, but apparently actually deals damage to 3 targets. So if there's 3 targets next to you, you could actually hit them all at once with a Mace Smash, which I never even knew about. Again, should really read this kind of stuff. Then the last one, you hit your foe and apply weakness. You know what that is. Counter Blow. Basically, you do this, and you get ready to block an incoming attack. And if the foe does attack at you, you block the attack, and you hit them back. This will work even for ranged attacks. You will block the ranged attack and swing at the air, doing nothing. which is better than usually getting hit by a ranged attack if it's a really powerful one. Like I told you before, that one ranger ability, the number 4 one that can knock you off cliffs, if I was right here, I just activate this, block the cliff knocking attack, and I'd be completely fine. Then, next ability, Pommel Bash. Basically, do that, and it's a stun. It's just plain old stun. Shield Bash. You fling forward with your shield, and you stun them. Again. And then, of course, you know what shield stance is. Hammer. Again, a chain combo. You're going to be realizing a pattern here. Nearly every single thing is a chain combo. So the first time, you swing your hammer, like so. Then you swing it again, and you swing it the last time, dealing more damage and potentially hitting 5 enemies instead of 3. Pretty simple. Not really anything else it does. Fierce Blow. You swing your hammer forward like this and apply weakness to them. And if I remember, there's actually a skill and defense trait that I talked about right at the start of this part of the video that actually makes foes take more damage when they are weakened. So again, you're applying more weakness to them, making them take more damage, making you deal more damage. Hammer Shock. You smash the ground, sending out a shockwave, and it will apply cripple to enemies so they move slower. Excellent for running away in PvP or not, or just making the enemy take longer to get to you, and potentially using some ranged abilities here if you have used them, even though your 2 loadouts things I've just picked here is completely close combat. Staggering Blow. You swing a hammer around like that, and you will knock enemies back. This is also kind of a stun and displacement. Last one, Backbreaker. Swing a hammer down like that, flatten to the floor, and dealing a longer amount of damage to a foe. You also deal more damage when you're weakened, which makes the defense skill tree even better because you can apply weakness when you're not even using Fierce Blow, which is the original thing you should be applying weakness with. Okay, moving on. Healing skill. Healing Signet. You regenerate health constantly. That's the first part about it. Pretty just boring, but I really like it because self-regenerating health. I love that. Then, when you use the Signet, you gain resistance for 6 seconds. Conditions on you are currently ineffective, so it won't remove the conditions, but if you had, like, let's say, bleeding, poison, and agony, which all do damage over time, you activate this, the skills won't affect you for a little while, which I like it, but I always forget to activate this because I like the constant healing, and you won't self-heal when you activate this ability. You really should remember that. Then, the next ability I had chosen here was Stomp. Really self-explanatory, gives you stability, and does this. It can be used as a movement ability as well, and instead of just knocking the enemies back a little bit like this ability does, it'll actually kind of send them flying. Like, if I was an enemy right now, I'd kind of make me go like that and then kind of tumble down the cliff like that. Which is why I really like it. If, of course, they don't have stability or something like that on themselves. So, another thing about stunning, which is why I call it the bullshit stun build. Signet of Might. Passively increases your power by 180. So, again, because this is increasing my power, I am gaining actually more health from a Signet because of my defensive skill that wanted to increase your health based on your might, which is why I like this build so much. If you activate it, however, for 6 seconds, your attacks become unblockable. Completely unblockable. Which means, let's say you're facing another warrior, and they saw you coming in Berserk mode, and they do this, and they activate this ability. You can just activate your Signet of Might, run up to them, and smash through their shield. That's why I love it. Signet of the Doyak. If you activate it, it gives you 8 seconds of stability, it heals you for 100 health, and it also breaks your stun. Another stun breaker. If, however, you don't activate it, it just permanently gives you a bit of damage reduction which never ends, which is why I love using it. I think that's pretty much... Yeah, that's actually... Oh, yeah, there's one last thing. Another thing I've also done, and let me just get out of the PvP lobby here. In fact, no, I don't... yeah, why not? I'll get out of it. Another thing that I've done is that's kind of ridiculous here, and I don't recommend doing it myself, but it's it kind of fits with this being a sort of mean build, is I basically use the Signet of Healing in a completely weird way to actually give myself more, what do you call it, survivability, yeah. Because normally when you're picking survivability, you just go for more toughness, which gives you more armor, which reduces damage, or vitality. No, I've actually got some armor from this place right here. So not this place exactly, but over here, there is the Cathedral of the Zephyrs, which basically, this entire thing is a temple of Dwayna, which is the goddess of basically healing and love in this universe. I went there back when I first started playing the game, eventually saved up enough for this set of armor, and it's got power, toughness, and healing power. So again, because of my defensive trait, which I do actually have equipped even in player versus environment, I gain more health based on my power. Then I gain toughness, which is reduced damage. And then I gain increased healing power. And then the rune set, the rune set is the set of Dwayna. So increased healing, increased regeneration duration. Increased healing, regeneration duration, more healing, 10% maximum health. Regeneration you apply is more effective. Pretty much, because of Berserker, you do actually apply regeneration to yourself. So this is even better than when I was first using it on just base warrior. And all the rest is increased healing that is granted by my healing signet. So what this is really meant to do is you're meant to equip this stuff and run around like with a druid or something healing other players. But instead I just run around healing myself. I once got top healing in a PvP match from running around healing myself with a healing signet. I was like, how is this even working? It makes no sense. I don't care. I love it. So yeah, that is basically the bullshit stunlock build, and apparently my critical chance is actually a little lower here, but that's actually still really impressive because I don't even have my critical armor on. It would go on a lot more if I equipped this character's critical armor set. This armor set, by the way, the more chainmail looking one I'm equipping, it is actually a complete berserker build, because as you can see here, these are runes of Balthazar, which increases the duration of burning damage and increases condition duration. So yeah, now it's above 50% because this includes power, precision, and condition damage. So with this set, I take more damage, but deal more damage, and of course, while wielding a torch, more flaming damage. Anyway, I hope you were okay with that little tangent on the end and how long this thing lasted, but I really, really wanted to explain the builds in good detail, and I hope you enjoy them, and I hope you enjoy using some of them. Hope I didn't ramble too long, and I hope you enjoyed my descriptions and everything. So yeah, thanks for watching, and please tell me in the comments if you want me to come up with more builds like this. Just be warned, these builds are finite, and what I mean by that is there's only so many things you can make in Guild Wars 2. Also, since there are only so many things you can do, like so many builds you can choose because there's only so many options you can choose, someone may have came up with this thing already, and I might not have found it, because I have not researched it yet. Oh yeah, one last thing. This build basically embodies a video perfectly. I'm going to link it in the description. This is one content creator who does a lot of World of Warcraft stuff. He used to make machinimas. If you don't know what a machinima is, it's basically you use character models in the game and like apply your own voice acting and then kind of tell a story. That's a machinima. It got the term because there was this YouTube network in the past called Machinima, and that's nearly what all the videos were posted. Anyway, in his video, he basically has a joke about the stereotype of rogues, and rogues are basically a stealthy class like Thief in Guild Wars 2, except in World of Warcraft they were called rogues. And basically, he was just joking around, and the mentality of the rogue is just going, stun, 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 vanish, stealth. And this is the exact same for me, except it's stun, 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 headbutt, they dead. Which I love how much it fits so much to his thing. Yeah, so as I said, I'm going to link it in the description of this video. Hope you enjoy watching this video. I hope you enjoy watching his video. Hope mine wasn't too long. Bye for real this time.